Hi, Christy Hopkins here, Vice President for Enrollment at McPherson College, and today I have the faculty of our communication department. So today we're going to be talking about the different opportunities students have within communication at McPherson College. So to start with, I will have each of you, why don't you introduce yourselves and talk a little bit about what you teach within the department. Becky, can we start with you?
You bet. Hi, my name is Becky Bowman, and I'm a professor of communication. I chair the communication department. Currently, I'm also the faculty chair, and I teach all of the human communication courses. So when we start to examine how humans are interacting with other humans in a face-to-face sort of encounter, that's the stuff that I cover. So I teach conflict communication, interpersonal communication. Some of my favorites are persuasion, gender communication. I really love teaching an intercultural communication class that we have. So really looking at how human beings are interacting with one another.
Great. Julia?
Hi, my name is Joelle Argent. I just finished my third year here at McPherson, and I teach more the media side of communication. So along with public speaking, which Becky and I both teach, I teach the journalism and media. So I just finished a semester of Harry Potter and pop culture, and media writing and editing in like a writing sense. And I also teach our junior seminar, which kind of focuses on media ethics and some of like the more practical aspects of looking at media through a more critical lens. And I'm also the advisor for our student media.
Very good. And Nathan?
Hello, I'm Nathan Pollard. I teach digital media here at McPherson College. That is mainly podcasting, videography, and web design. And so in videography classes, we try and cover sort of documentary filmmaking as well as entertainment. In podcasting, which we've just about to start our second year of, we're just trying to get students used to some form of sort of journalism and getting used to public speaking as well at the same time, but at the same time enjoying themselves and providing some entertainment. And in web design, it's to begin with, it's about coding, about learning how to make your own websites, and then it's also more about the design side of it. So trying to make sure students have got a reasonable grounding in digital media.
Very good. Well, thank you. Just a lot of variety within the department. That's pretty amazing. Becky, if you wouldn't mind, why don't we start off and have you give us an overview of what a major is like in communication at McPherson College and what is that all about?
Okay. So the communication major is truly a hybrid major. And what I mean by that is we borrow from courses in other departments, as well as teaching a number of courses in our own department that are steeped in our field. So when you major in communication, you're going to take courses in the human communication side, like public speaking, intercultural communication. You're going to take classes in the media side, like our media writing course, the pop culture course that Julia mentioned. And then you're also going to take some art classes, like graphic design, and you'll also take statistics, because we found that students who go out into the world and are writing about the world or are reporting about the world or are even in human resources or publicity, they need to know how to read graphs and charts and how to handle those numbers. And so you're going to be taking classes in a whole variety of areas. And there are three different ways that you can complete a communication major. There's our straight communication major, which is a combination of the human and mass media of communication. Then we have the automotive communication major for students who are wanting to work with cars, but also perhaps do some writing or some publicity in those areas or marketing in those areas. And then we have what Professor Pollard was talking about, which is the digital media major, where you can emphasize in communication for those students who want to focus more on the digital side of what's happening in the world.
Very good. Well, I'm curious, Julia, if you wouldn't mind, what are some of the careers that a major in communication can lead to?
Well, fortunately, communication is one of the more versatile majors that you can major in. You can really do almost anything that you want to do with either the communication or the digital media majors. A lot of students go into human resources or public relations or journalism, broadcasting, management of any style, if it's hotel management or something else, really anything that requires any sort of communication, we give our students those skills to do. And really that's pretty much any job that a student wants to do. Having those communication skills will really help them propel into those careers.
Very good. And Nathan, is there anything else that you want to add to that with the digital media side in addition to what Julia mentioned?
Well, I would say you can go into digital media and into the industry as an online editor or something to do with social media, which we don't often think about, even though we use it so much. So anything where you're producing content is as an area of possibility. You're learning to communicate information and provide informative and entertaining content. So anything involving that, publishing manager, advertising, digital marketing, blogger, influencer, all those sort of things. So there's so many things you can do with a communication degree.
Very good. Well, I know that communication doesn't just touch the majors that we have within just communication and digital media, but it really affects a lot of our students across campus. And I know that a lot of the major students will take some of their courses out of communication for their electives and for their general education requirements. And so really, it's a strong skill set regardless of your major. And you guys tend to be interwoven with several of the other majors across campus. So, and I think that kind of leads to our students being involved in a couple of different opportunities that kind of are stemmed out of the communication department, but not necessarily just for communication majors. Julia, you want to talk about a couple of those opportunities?
Yeah, so we have two different opportunities for any student on campus. You don't have to be a communication major or minor. And those are both within our student media, MAC media. So on one side, we have our newspaper, The Spectator, where it's completely student run. Our editor is always a student. I'm there to advise, but most of the decisions are made up to the editor and other staff members. And the newspaper is published once a month in print form. But we also have a website where we put stories up as soon as we can. And so it's a more rapid style of journalism versus the print, where with it being once a month, it's sometimes delayed in that sense. Along with The Spectator, we also have a short weekly video option called Mac Updates, where we kind of talk about what's happening on campus in the next week, what opportunities are for students. And so it's working its way up to a small, a short newsreel of sorts. But right now it's very simple, but it's for students who want some of that more broadcasting ability. So we have a teleprompter, we have lights, we have cameras. And so we put the students to work to getting both sides, both camera work as well as on camera. On the other digital side, we have the Podringle, which is our podcast studio. We're entering the second year of that, so it was brand new in the fall of 2019. And so that is for any student who wants to have a podcast on any topic that's college appropriate. It doesn't have to be about McPherson College. It can be, if you're a fan of pro football, it can be a show about professional football. But we ask that it's just appropriate for college students to listen to. And so that is also an option if you want to have more of an audio aspect to talking instead of a written aspect.
That's great. That is really exciting for our students too. I'm sure they enjoy having some of that variety of opportunity to expand on their skills. So you sort of talked at the beginning about some of the courses that you teach. I wonder if you would each share maybe your favorite course that you teach and why that's your favorite.
So that's a really hard question to answer because they're all my favorite, right? Whatever class I am standing in at the moment, whatever students I'm facing, that's my favorite course and those are my favorite students. But I do always look forward to teaching gender communication, and I think it's become a favorite for many of the students who take it as well. And in that course, we spend 15 weeks looking at the differences between how males and females and masculine and feminine personalities approach things, understand things, how they package messages, how they receive messages differently. And then we also look at how we really are more similar than we are different, but those little differences can lead to some pretty big conflicts. And so it's a really fun class to delve into with our students.
That's great. I do hear a lot of students mention that that's one of their favorites, so that's great.
It's a lot of fun. We have a lot of really great controversial debates in class. We get fired up. And we get to examine what's happening out in the world, which is just super fun.
Absolutely.
I'm going to break the rules and have two. Sorry. And they're two very different ends of the freshman versus junior senior spectrum. So one of my favorite classes is my media writing class that I teach every spring. And it's a freshman sophomore level class. So it's the first time I get to really interact with a lot of our freshman majors. And it's a journalism class. It's learning how to write for different platforms. So for web or radio or newspaper, whatever it is. It's just really fun to have those first interactions and really get to know the students inside the classroom and not just outside the classroom through Spectator. The other end is public relations, which is a junior senior level course. And so by that point, I've had most of them multiple times in class, and it's just really fun to see them use all of the skills that they have gathered from all of our classes. And I like to think of it kind of a final exam within a class, because you're using skills from Becky's classes, from Nathan's classes, from the different art classes they've taken, maybe business, and you're bringing them all together to create a real public relations portfolio for a nonprofit in town or somewhere local. And so it's really both ends of the spectrum. It's the introduction, but it's also kind of, some of them, it's my very last class with seniors, and it's kind of sad in that sense. Mm-hmm. But it's exciting to see their growth over the years.
That's great. Very good. How about you, Nathan?
So I like, there's two classes I particularly like. Well, there's a set of classes, but I like my videography classes primarily because I like to see what students can come up with when you set them a brief and see how they, translate that into something visually. And, you get all sorts of incredible things back. But also, I also like that the students don't really know how to speak the language of video. They watch them all the time. And they really enjoy them, but they don't know what really goes into making an entertaining and informative video. So showing them that and then seeing the sort of light bulbs go off and them going, oh, right, so this is how that works is incredible with audio and video. And then that goes backwards actually to a freshman class, which is podcasting, which we've run for 1 year, and I'm going to teach again this fall. And I love that class because the first assignment is to get the students talking about themselves. And so when we listen to the podcast in class, you see all the students looking around each other, go, oh, wow, I like that sort of thing as well. Oh, we have this in common. And I think it really connects the students together straight away. And I really enjoy seeing that. I really enjoy seeing that they then find that thing in common and they can get on really well straight away.
That's great. That is great. Well, I know this time of year, we just finished with finals last week, but even prior to finals is the big senior moment where students put together and present their senior capstone research projects. Talk to me a little bit about what that means for communication. What is the senior capstone project all about? Becky?
Yeah, you bet. So the seniors in our program do a project that we call the Legacy Project, and they are paired with older adults in the community. We like to find people who are, give or take age 75 or up. So we're thinking they're probably in their last quarter of life. And the students then spend somewhere between 5 and 10 hours putting all of those interviewing skills that they've learned in some of their classes to work and interview the person and ask them questions about their life story. And they try to gather stories from whatever the person remembers all the way back from childhood up through today. And then they also gather information about what kinds of advice or what legacy they want to leave for future generations from themselves. And so they put all of that interviewing information into a document. They usually end up to be somewhere between 20 and 30 pages of that person's life story. So now they put all of their editing skills, all of their writing skills into practice, and they create this legacy story that we then pass on to the individual and their families. And at the end of the project, after we've spent a semester interviewing the people, we get to have a celebration of life for those folks who were part of the process, and they invite their families, and we get an audience together, and the students come and they read parts of those stories for the audience. And it is the coolest project, Christy, because not only do the students get to showcase all of those skills they've been learning in the major and get to create this lasting piece for the families, which is a huge service to them, the students also get to learn about history from somebody who's actually lived it. They get to talk to people who were born in the 1920s and 1930s, and they get to talk to people about what it was like to live through the Great Depression or through the Civil Rights era. They get to talk to people who went and heard Martin Luther King speak. They get to learn about things that they just wouldn't learn about any other way other than reading about it. and they get to hear humans that they know. They get to hear their perspective on that history. And they form some of the neatest relationships with those adults. And many of them keep those relationships long after they have graduated. And those adults become big cheerleaders in their lives as they continue on. So it's a really cool project. It's something that we enjoy showcasing. With the advent of our digital media major, we now have students who also can do video stories of individuals and put together a video compilation of them, of their families, of their friends, talking about them. So there's a digital component then to those stories as well.
That is amazing, and I know this. Just hearing the students talk about those and having seen a few of those there. I mean, what a beautiful, beautiful keepsake for both that person and their family. I just it gives me goosebumps thinking about it. I just think that's an amazing experience for the multi-generational connection too. So that is great. So, as we, at McPherson College, one of the things that we strongly encourage is for our students to take part in an internship before they graduate. And so within the communication area, what are some of the internships that our students have had or had the opportunity to take part in?
So I'll start. We've had students do all sorts of things. I mean, the gamut is huge. We've had students work in law offices as aides to the lawyers, doing some research, writing up notes. We've had students work in television stations, in radio stations, as far away as North Dakota, as close as Salina, about 30 miles up the road here. We've had students work in car dealerships. Those auto communication students sometimes go in and they're not working on the cars, but they're working on the customer service part of the interaction and learning how to communicate with customers to help them to understand the problems that they're facing when they're there in the dealership. So, I mean, it's a really large gamut. We've had people working in human resources and marketing. They do all sorts of things.
That's
We've had
great.
some social media as well. Social media for different nonprofits or for businesses. And that's, one thing that I would add to the list too.
That's great. Yeah, social media is not just for fun, right?
It's quite difficult, yeah.
And I know Nathan has also had some students work on some video projects for the community. So, I mean, really, they get some great experiences while they're here in the form of internships.
That's great. Very good. Well, I wonder, could you also talk about, so the internship's the kind of that first step, and it's really, we stress that as a college that we want all of our students to participate in an internship. If at all possible, we feel like that's certainly the first stepping stone to getting a job, because ultimately that's why the students are all here, is to be able to get a nice career job that they are wanting to do, and to kind of discern that process along the way. And so if you wouldn't mind, talk about a few of the career placement positions our students have taken after McPherson College.
Okay. So I was thinking about some of the more recent graduates and some of the things that they've been doing. And we have students who are working as directors of marketing. One in particular has the title of Director of Marketing and Communications at Completely Kids. We have people working in sales. I've got a person down in Wichita who is a sales manager at a car dealership. Another person who is a sales manager at Dress Gallery. And I know she loves her job. She gets to work with people every day, coming in, planning one of the happiest days of their lives. And she talks about how she has so much fun working with those individuals. And then she also gets to go to fashion shows in New York City and other places and help to order the dresses that they're going to be selling in their stores. And so there's all sorts of things that she does in that role. We have someone who is an associate editor at Autoblog, putting their automotive communication degree to work. And so again, we've got people in all different types of fields. If those of you who are looking at coming to McPherson College, you may be dealing with an admissions counselor who got her communication degree from McPherson College. Right. And I'd be remiss then if I didn't say that our college president also got his communication degree from McPherson College.
And was the editor of the Spectator.
Sorry, Julia, say that again.
And was the editor of the Spectator.
He was the editor of the Spectator. So we've got people doing all different kinds of jobs out there.
That is great. Yeah, that is. I'm so glad that you mentioned all of those, and such a variety of opportunities for students. So, in closing and wrapping up, I know you all are very talented people, and I know that you have a lot of opportunities to. You could be working out in industry or out in your field, or you could be working as professors here at McPherson College. So talk a little bit about why you choose to be at McPherson College and teach here at McPherson College and teach our future graduates.
I can start.
Go ahead.
So I went to a small private undergrad, and those interactions with faculty are something that I wanted to have when I became a professor. And so when I was looking for positions, once I had finished my degrees, I really wanted that small college atmosphere where I could really connect with my students more on a one-to-one basis. There are students on campus who I've never had in the classroom who I know. And that's a great feeling. I know them for different reasons, whether it's through student media or just, I interacted with them on campus at lunch or something. And so those interactions with students and the interactions with my colleagues are great. I love the small community that is built on this campus, and it's why I love it here.
That's great. Thank you.
Okay, if I go next. I'm going to back up what Julia just said. It's so much fun working with students and working with our colleagues here. It's such a fun place to work, but also it is that sense of community is wonderful, and it just keeps you coming back and just being so incredibly impressed and so incredibly happy to be working with everyone. And then I'm going to go backwards again and give you a little bit of history. So I worked for a large broadcaster in the UK for 20 years. And over that time, I had many different sort of, roles within my main role. So I've been a graphic designer, but also had a lot to do with editing and video content, and a bit to do with web design, which I also teach now. And those things, just what I learned over the years and what I learned from a lot of other people, not just on my own, were just something that I thought I could bring to McPherson College and also help students to learn about, and hopefully in a fun way for them as well. It's hard work, but it's fun too. And I love seeing what you get more than you give to the students. You get so much more back, and I really enjoy that. It's so rewarding.
That's great. Thank you.
And Christy, I did used to teach at a large university. I was at Kent State University, which is a great college, for a few years. And, they have upwards of 50,000 students between their extended campuses and on campus. And I liked teaching there. It was a great place. But one of the things I realized was that I was missing that small college connection that Julia mentioned. I also went to a small college, and what it did for me and how it helped me grow as a person was so much bigger than just the degree that I earned. And I wanted to be able to form those relationships with my students in the classroom, get to know them, get to know their names, get to know what they wanted to do after college, and to help them forge their own path into the world. Because I remember my mentors in college and how much they did for me, and I wanted to be that person for someone else.
That's great. I really appreciate you all sharing that. I think just listening to you all, people can pick up on just your passion for teaching our students and watching them develop from the time that they're freshmen to going out into the world and their professional roles. And a lot of that is a tribute to you all and how you're preparing them through that process. So I appreciate you all visiting with me today, and hopefully in the future we'll have some students who watch this and they'll want to connect with you one-on-one, because I know that you'll be available to answer any questions and just talk about the possibilities that you have here at McPherson College with communication and digital media. So thank you all so much, and have a great day.
You too.
Thanks.
Thank you, Christy.